What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be doing something a little bit different here on my channel. We'll be talking about my favorite sensation and perception concept, that being the sensation of taste and the perception of flavor. Before we begin, I'll lay down a little overview for what we'll be talking about today. So first we'll start off with the 5 basic qualities of taste, and we'll go over the structures of the tongue. Next, we'll talk about flavor, the role the olfactory system plays in flavor, and the cognitive factors that also go into that. And then we will end the video with me talking about why I chose this topic, and what about it is so important to me. So let's jump right into it. Why don't we? So taste. Taste is best explained as the chemical reaction between a substance and the receptors on your taste bud. There are 5 basic qualities of taste, that being salty, sour, sweet, bitter, and umami, all of which, as you can see in little guy's tongue, that is all of which approximately where those tastes can be picked up on the tongue. But like the most important thing about taste is that it tells us about the food we're about to eat, and it can usually tell us something about what that can do for us. So say for example, a sweet flavor is usually an indicator of something that has glucose in it, a lot of nutrition, like something with high caloric value, which is something that we need to keep on going. Or say like something with a bitter flavor. A bitter flavor is something that usually indicates harm or danger. So poisons like cyanide or arsenic, those have bitter flavors to help keep them away, like help us keep away from. And something that has a salty taste. We also need salt to survive, and when we're low on salt, we seek out foods that are high in salt to replenish that in our bodies. Moving on to the star of the show, the tongue. So the tongue is actually what actually allows us to experience the tastes from these different types of substances, and we're able to do that because of things called the papillae and the taste buds. So the papillae are actually these little structures that are located literally everywhere all along the tongue. They're actually responsible for giving our tongue that rough looking texture. And there are 3 types of these papillae. There are the fungiform, the foliate, and the circumvallate. The fungiform are mushroomed shape, hence the name fungiform, and they're located on the tip of the tongue. The foliate are located on the sides of the tongue, and the circumvallate are actually flat-looking mounds that are located on the backside of our tongues. And then each papillae gets its own little group of taste buds. And then taste buds are actually the structures that contain the receptors that react with the 5 qualities that I mentioned a second ago. And just a quick little fun fact, we each have approximately about 10,000 taste buds on our tongues each. From there, the signals generated by the chemical responses on these sites travel to the brain using a special nerve pathway specific to each type of each area. And just something to mention real quick before we move on, it is totally possible for taste to vary from person to person. Preferences in taste are often linked to the density of taste buds on your tongue, which comes from genetics. So say you got like 2 friends, one who appreciates cilantro for the delicious garnish that it is, and then you have the other friend who was dealt with the wrong hand of cards and it somehow tastes like soap to them. So moving on to the flavor aspect of the video, which is actually my favorite part. Like the flavor is honestly my favorite part of any of this. Like I mentioned earlier, so taste is the chemical reaction between substances in our taste receptor sites, whereas flavor, on the other hand, is a combination of taste and olfactory sensations, as well as a little bit of like our cognitive factors that go into it. For example, this is like when you take medicine. When I take medicine, I hate the taste of it, so I pinch my nose before I down it. and when that decreases the flavor of it like immensely, it makes it, tolerable. So, olfactory and taste sensations, what does that mean? How does it work? What is it? So, food and drinks let off odors that make their way to our nasal cavity and affect the flavor of what we consume. So how this happens is when we go to put something in our mouths, those odors travel in through the oral cavity. They travel up something called the nasal pharynx, and that's when they reach the nasal cavity, which holds the olfactory receptors. Um, this is something called oral capture when we think the flavor is coming just from our mouth, when in reality it is also coming from our nose as well. So the cognitive factors. Our minds actually play a huge role in how we perceive the flavor of our foods and drinks. First and foremost, expectations of how something will taste can drastically change the flavor. In a study from the textbook, participants were asked to rate 3 different wine samples on how pleasant they tasted. When presented with a wine sample that had a price tag, the most expensive was always rated higher. But for wine samples that were presented without price tags, there was no difference in the judgment between them. Um, and that can even be other things such as like the color, even down to the type of utensils we use. When participants were presented with a strawberry dessert on a red versus a black plate, it was always reported that the dessert tasted better off of the white plate. And then a segment from Brain Games has also informed me that when you use plastic versus silver eating utensils, if you use the plastic utensils, your food will actually taste better to you somehow. And then it is the orbitofrontal cortex. That's the little part of your brain in the frontal cortex. It's actually located right kind of behind your eyes a little bit. It's used in decision making, and then it uses the information from our taste and olfactory stimulations and helps determine how we decide how good something is. So, moving on to what I love so much about this concept. Why is it so important to me? Food has been the glue that keeps my family together and the seed from which my most cherished relationships have flourished from. Not only is it used to nourish my body, but it also plays a key role in nourishing my soul. And what I mean by that is that I'm able to experience these wonderful times with people, make amazing memories that I'm able to cherish forever. It's just makes me a more grateful person. I'm grateful for others. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful for the food that I'm about to receive. It just overall makes me feel wonderful.